Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. What do we got today, Rick?
We got a mock draft.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
You did not sound excited at all, Rick,
I didn't.
that the mock draft was today. You were like, mock draft.
I see. I didn't mean for that to come out like that. Because I am pumped.
Let's just pretend that, it's not draft week.
It is draft for us, yeah.
For us. Well, majority of people do. For some reason, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit later this week. Maybe it's going to be next week.
Probably this
for
week,
a lot of
week,
people,
yeah.
Because the NFL season's like 1 week later than it normally starts.
Yeah.
Not because of COVID, but because of Labor Day being on a weird day. Anyway, welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. As always, my name is Morgan Colby, and as always, I have Rick Lemon with me.
What's up?
We got some stuff to get into in this episode. Obviously, as you heard in the intro, mock draft. We're going to do another one this episode. I think we have 4 mock drafts to go before the season officially begins and we start talking about random stuff. Or not random stuff, planned stuff, I guess. Yeah. And then we're going to talk about the news after that. Before we jump right into our mock draft, be sure to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at @TheFFChamps. And then you can follow our individual handles somewhere on the screen. You'll find them. Instagram at @TheFantasyChampions. You can like us at Facebook.com/TheFantasyChampions. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platform, be sure to leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below who you think won this mock draft. At some point, we should do a mock draft together because I don't think we've done that.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't. It's more fun doing it against each other, though.
The draft guide is live. It's been live since the beginning of July, I think, right? Is that right?
Yeah. I think so.
It is $25. It's got full rankings, breakouts, busts, player draft values, breakdowns, a lot of stuff. We just updated some of the content in the draft guide, so be sure to check it out. Buy the draft guide I think Friday. We're gonna make Friday the deadline for buying the draft guide and getting entered into our listener league, and then we are gonna send out invites probably Friday or Saturday. To get into the listener league. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. But this is your last week to buy it and get into the drawing for the listener league. And then be sure to tell your friends.
Yeah. Make sure you tell your friends. If you think you have a chance against this, of course.
Yeah, that's not it. Let's jump right in. They're listening to all of our strategies. So I've already had a couple people in our league, in our home league, be like, "Oh, should I just go on your website and buy your draft guide so we can beat you this year?" And I'm like, "I'm not sure that's how it works."
Yeah, I mean, it would probably help though.
You'll know who we like, but that's like 90% of the industry. So, let's jump right into a mock draft. We are going to do turn picks in this draft, mock draft today. 12-team HALF-PPR as normal, but we're going to draft at the turn and see what we can get. For rosters, because drafting at the turn or at the end of the first round or at the beginning of the first round is a lot tougher than drafting in the middle. I feel like you have a lot less strategy to go on, more specifically because you really just have to take the guys that you like, because there's 20 picks in between what your next pick is, or 24 picks or whatever. So That's what we're going to be doing this episode. Let's get started with the mock draft and hit the begin. I am on the clock. There's no other name that you should take besides Saquon Barkley. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey.
Did you see the stat about somebody tweeted that if you take away all 19 of his touchdowns last year, he'd still be the RB1 by 40 fantasy points in PPR?
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
It's ridiculous.
See, now, for Christian McCaffrey, I do think that he's going to come down to earth this year, because I think was 200. Aaron Jones had 290 fantasy points through 17 weeks, and he had 417, I believe, in HALF-PPR. So that is totally believable that 19 touchdowns getting taken away is but that's 120 fantasy points. So I don't know how that makes any sense. Maybe it wasn't PPR.
It was PPR.
Okay. But McCaffrey coming off the board is going to at 1-0. I've never seen a fantasy year where the 101 has been so much of a sure thing. Usually there's like somewhat of a question. McCaffrey's the obvious, I think, 101 at this point. I am a little bit more concerned this year than most years taking Christian McCaffrey just because of the change of offensive situation. And I think how much they're going to utilize him in the passing game and the rushing game is going to be regressed a little bit. But I don't think that's going to hurt him. Like you said, if it hurts him, he'll probably finish with 350 fantasy points. So I don't think there's a chance that he doesn't finish in the top 2. And if Saquon Barkley outdoes him, he just outdoes him. So that's the reality. After my pick, you had Kamara, Michael Thomas, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and then Rick's pick.
Yeah. This is half PPR? Right?
Half PPR, yes.
Yeah. It's very tempting to take Clyde here, but I think just ahead of Clyde in my rankings, I have both Miles Sanders and Nick Chubb. So I think that running back core is very solid to have 1-2.
Yeah.
But it was tempting to take Julio there, and it was tempting for me to take Clyde.
So I moved my rankings around recently, and I might change them again. I think as of right now, I have Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, and Derrick Henry behind Miles Sanders.
Okay, yeah.
And I also have Clyde, I think, ahead of those two as well.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I'm higher on Nick Chubb than you are. I'm very high on Nick Chubb.
I think the more I hear about stuff out from Cleveland, the more nervous I get. Just based on the fact that Kareem Hunt's there, and he was very bad over the course of the second half of the year last year, and I don't think he's going to suck by any means. But I just think that Kareem Hunt's going to get a lot more work than I think anyone anticipates. So, like I said, I still think he's going to get like 18 carries a game, but it just depends on the opportunity. For me, I don't really, that style of running back, like not that he's not a good pass catcher, but that style of running back that just sits there and, rushes it like Derrick Henry for 90% of the game. I just don't, that's not, and half PPR and PPR, that's not a super appealing pick to me.
I'm definitely with you, but I am very confident in Nick Chubb's abilities in the situation that he's in with that offensive line this year as well. That I think, and Kevin Stefanski, that I believe that he's going to be this year's Derrick Henry. Yeah. Where he doesn't need the passing work because he's going to be that good on the ground.
Fair enough. I probably would have taken Clyde at, 2-1? Yeah. But
I mean, it would have been him or Clyde for sure.
Yeah. Drake came off at 2-2. He is skyrocketed from the end of the second round to the top of the second round in industry mocks. So that is an interesting development. Julio Jones at 2-3, and then Mahomes, Clyde, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Austin Eckler, Chris Godwin, Travis Kelce, and then Lamar Jackson all came off the board. We get 2 quarterbacks and a tight end coming off in the second round here. Interesting little development.
Yeah, usually, I mean, that's been happening.
So, I'm going to be honest, I have not done any mocks with the first overall pick, and my goodness.
It's not great.
No, you're left with virtually nothing here. Not nothing. There's a lot there. Sure. What were you going to say? Sorry, I was talking over you.
I know we hate taking tight ends early, but George Kittle's very tempting here. For me, at least. I don't think it is for you. But.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I like Kenny Galladay, but if you go that approach, because you're at the turn, it's a little bit easier to go with the wide receiver in the second, or
sure.
You can go running back, wide receiver here, and not like everyone's like, oh my God, go running back, running back, then wide receiver. You got to go heavy running back early and all that stuff. So it's like, if you're at the turn here, it's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look until my next pick and see what guys I actually want and then take them. So don't laugh at me if there's some reaches. I think you got to go Galladay here at 212.
Sure.
And then go ahead.
Make a pick.
Oh man,
I have a guy in mind.
I don't want to take James Conner, but I feel like I should.
No, I wouldn't. I would not take James Conner here.
I feel like all the running backs are just a giant reach.
I mean, you could take Conner here. Like you're right. At this point, you're taking a running back that, like, one of those guys in the middle of the third round. The third round is just filled with a bunch of running backs that are filled with question marks. So you're pretty much just picking the guy you want. So if it is Conner, it's Conner. I'd probably lean Fournette or Todd Gurley if I were you, honestly.
Yeah, I'll take Fournette.
Yeah,
I hate it, but I'll take Fournette.
I think it's a solid pick, though.
So I was thinking about Fournette today, more specifically, and I put out a tweet about him because there has been this is a consensus hate among the big titans in our industry of Leonard Fournette. They all seem to be really afraid of a 30-year-old running back who hasn't completed more than 11 games in a season since 2016.
Yeah, don't be afraid of Chris. Chris Thompson is going to take some targets from Fournette, but it's not going to be enough where he should be getting as faded as he is right now.
To give you the whole story about that, Jay Gruden is I don't know if he's the new offensive coordinator for Jacksonville.
Yep.
And he comes in, and he was the head coach for Washington last year. He comes in now as Jacksonville's head coach, and he brings Chris Thompson with him. That is a majority of the worry for people. I think you're justified if you're sitting there looking at Jacksonville and saying they're not going to be a good offense. You know, I don't think Leonard Fournette's going to get any better. You know, you look at like we always talk about the positive touchdown regression that we're seeing, that he's going to get a lot better in that area, maybe score 6 to 10 touchdowns instead of the 3 he had last year because he was that bad. Jacksonville was horrible last year offensively, so they're going to get a little bit better this year, just automatically. But how much that affects Leonard Fournette's value, it remains to be seen. You're like, does it affect him enough to be like maybe 4 to 5 more touchdowns? Which I think 4 to 5 more touchdowns, that would make up for the receiving work that he loses from Chris Thompson. If that happens, he's still an RB9. He's still like he's still like a top 10, top 12 running back in fantasy football. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that there's any real realm where that happens. But I mean, we have people projecting him at 185. So it's like, that's a little low for me.
Yeah.
After Fournette, we had Carson, Bell, Connor, Kittle, Gordon, Evans, Thielen, Cooper, Johnson, and Kupp.
Man, Mike Evans is falling, huh?
Wow, he fell that far.
I honestly don't even think he's a bust if he's going there.
At 3.7.
In that range, yeah.
I was like, he thought he fell to you at your pick. I'm like, yeah, right, dude. Interesting.
He did not fall to me, but somebody who I suggested you might take the 3-1 did, and that's Todd Gurley. I'll gladly take him at the end of the third, almost fourth round.
Yeah.
And then for my second pick, I can probably there's a lot of good receivers here. It's tough. I like AJ Brown, I like Calvin Ridley, I like Allen Robinson, and I like Juju Smith-Schuster. I like all of those guys.
Yeah.
But the guy who I have the highest in my rankings, and I continue to take him, is Juju Smith-Schuster. But you can't go wrong with any of those guys. And as you can see here, there's a big run on wide receivers.
Yeah, I'm kind of like having DJ Moore, you little sniper there, 4.9.
But A-Rob fell to you. Wow. And
I'll take
Robert
it.
Woods.
Oh God, now I got to decide. I might take both. So the big thing I put on another tweet, I think it was last week, about ranking Juju, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson. I think it's Robert Woods and one other guy. AJ Brown was it, I think. But it's been really hard for me to figure out which guy I really like because, I'm like, they're all going in the fourth round. So it's like, if you're at the beginning of the fourth round, you're sitting there thinking like, okay, which wide receiver do I want to take at this point? And it's like, at this point, I'm kind of DJ Moore is at the top of that list. Juju's 3 for me right now. Some guys I was in love with earlier in the offseason, I'm kind of like falling a little bit. It's not like I dislike them. Like I really still like them, but they're a little bit, as I find out more information about certain things, like what scares me about Juju is the fact that his arm could just, like Ben Roethlisberger's arm could just be garbage this year.
See, that doesn't concern me though, because I think even if it is, like how garbage, because even if he's not the same player, he's still going to be an upgrade over Duck Hodges.
That's
or
true.
an upgrade over.
But if he just like is to that point,
And
where
he's completely garbage, which I don't think he will be. But
Juju
yeah,
just ends up like he was last year, which is not good. So I mean, there's baked in risk, like, but at in the 4th round, 5th round, it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? So at my pick, I think I'll just these guys are at the are at somewhere around the bottom of my list. So I'll take A-Rob and Robert Woods.
That's a great wide receiver duo to get at the end of the 4th, early 5th.
I mean, at this point, you're not really going to get much in terms of running backs in the 5th and 6th round. There's some running backs in the 6th round that are definitely there, but I really would be hesitant on drafting a lot of them. You know what I mean? Like, one of the running backs might fall to me, but like, there's just literally nothing available at this point at the running back position, enough so that you can get production. Like, usually at this point in the draft, I'm like, okay, what kind of breakout running backs can we get? But because of the way everyone's drafting, it's just not turning out that way. Yeah. Beckham, Murray, Hilton, Lockett, Diggs, Mostert, Allen, Marquise Brown, DJ Chark, and Terry McLaurin all came off the board following my pick.
So this is why you take running backs early. Because you look at the 4th round and the 5th round and the amount of talented wide receivers that are there. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the last guy that on my list that I really wanted just went. I was hoping Chark or McLaurin would follow me to be my wide receiver too. Yeah. They did not. Can you believe Hollywood Brown's going in the 5th round right now? That is a bit much, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's a bad. I'm like struggling between because the Hollywood's being hyped, and I don't know if he's good enough to be a starter. Like, if you're taking him in the 5th round, he's a starter.
I mean, I remember like a few weeks ago when he was
7th
going
round.
in the 7th, 8th round. It was like that's a solid pick, but now in the 5th round, I think that's just too early. For me, I think. I already have Nick Chubb, so not only is he a good player fantasy-wise, but he's also an insane handcuff, so I'll take Kareem Hunt. Yep. And then for my wide receiver 2, it's tempting to go A.J. Green here, especially like with the T. Higgins news lately that he's kind of that all the stuff coming out of training camp with T. Higgins. So it feels like A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd are going to be the 2 main wide receivers. Yeah. I do really like Devontae Parker, who's a little lower for this year, and I do still like Cortland Sutton a lot. Yeah. But I'll take AJ Green. I'll take a flyer on him here. Okay. I have been moving AJ Green a little up. I really didn't like him early on, but the more that it feels like he's healthy and ready to go, and with the T. Higgins stuff, I'm more confident in AJ Green.
Yeah, the news more recently, I don't think it's in our news today, but that T. Higgins, he hasn't even reported yet, I guess, or something of that magnitude. He's essentially going to have no role this year, I would think. Rookies are already having a hard time getting acquainted with the offense in general, and there are certain players that just aren't going to get, reps year one, so... after your pick, you had Russell Wilson, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, Dak Prescott, Darren Waller, Watson, Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Ronald Jones, and Marlon Mack. I was hoping Rojo would fall to my pick. I was hoping.
He really does.
What'd you say?
Going up boards too.
Oh, Ronald Jones, which is surprising considering they signed LaShawn McCoy. I think it's because of Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is usually a straight shooter with the media, so what he says is usually gospel.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'm not really a huge fan of Parker, just because of the fact that there seemed to be, like, you had Allen Hurd, who they brought in, you had Preston Williams, and then you also had Albert Wilson, who all
two of them are out.
All of them aren't really great receivers, but they're enough to kind of pull maybe a little bit of work from Devontae Parker.
I'm pretty sure Allen Hurns and
Allen Hurns and Albert Wilson opted out. Okay. So that leaves Preston Williams and Devontae Parker on a team that has literally no one else at the receiver position. Yep. So I don't think that is a bad pick. I just don't think... I think last year was an outlier year for Devontae Parker, and, he might not produce that same thing again. I think 1,000 yards and like 5-6 touchdowns is not out of the realm of possibility for Parker being the feature guy, but I don't think a wide receiver 7 finish is going to happen again. I think he's more like a mid to high end wide receiver 2. So, I mean, getting that in the 7th round, like, or late 6th, early 7th, it's great. It's great value. I'm gonna say Debo though. I'm gonna take Debo Samuel, and then I'm gonna take J.K. Dobbins.
Wow.
You know what? I like the upside of Debo. I think that what you're getting from Devontae Parker is a floor play. You're not going to get much of a ceiling out of him. Like there's other players. Like if he had the ceiling of Allen Robinson or Juju Smith-Schuster, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, he'd be going in that round. But he doesn't have that ceiling. So, and I already have a floor play in Robert Woods that I drafted at 5-1. So I'm not looking for, another wide receiver that has a good floor. I'm more or less looking for a guy that might break out. And even though there's reports that Debo might play week 1, it's sketchy, but he might play week 1. I would hope that he misses 1 or 2 weeks, but the fact that people just are straight up ignoring Debo at this point is crazy. Because he's going to be, we've already talked about why we thought he was going to be good before he got hurt. He has a good rushing floor. He's the number 1 receiver for, the 49ers. He has a chance to do really well with the 49ers this year as the feature wide receiver, and to get him in the 6th or 7th round is a great value for him more specifically because he doesn't have to be a starter on your team week 1. So I think you can get him, hold him on your bench for a couple weeks, and then as soon as he comes in, you'll see what kind of value you're going to get out of him. If the pick doesn't work out, I don't think the 7th round and the 8th round has been really tough for players at this point. So I would just take Debo, and then J.K. Dobbins, like his upside. He goes usually in middle of the 7th, late 7th, maybe, if he falls to the 8th round. But I like the upside of J.K. Dobbins this year. I don't think he's a fantastic pass catcher. I don't think anybody believes that, but there's reports that he, we'll talk about that in the news later, that he wants to be the starter, that he's been fighting for that. And I think that they might be a little more reserved on Ingram until the playoffs because he's 30 years old.
Sure. Man, I love Debo. I do, but probably would have taken Parker.
Yeah.
I like both guys, so I can't hate.
After my pick, Landry, Parker, Gronk, Breeze, Ingram, Gallup, Will Fuller, Edelman, and Rodgers, as well as James White came off the board.
Yep. I already took AJ Green. Might as well get the other Cincinnati receiver and get Tyler Boyd. I think Tyler Boyd in the late 7th, early 8th round is really solid value. He's somebody who could be a wide receiver 2 this year. So getting him this late is pretty good.
I want to see your thoughts on this next pick because I see a man's that is sitting there, but I don't know if you're going to take him.
Is it Jordan Howard?
No.
I don't know who you would.
Just take your pick, and I'll let you know if it's in.
There's nobody here that I'm like excited.
This is literally what I've been doing in the 8th round in every mock.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're a big Deontay Johnson guy. He's kind of there.
You'd have to reach on him or Mecole Hardman.
Honestly, in redraft, I kind of like Marvin Jones a lot. That might be a slight reach. I mean, I don't know. I'd probably lean Marvin Jones here. I don't mind Matt Breida either, or Jordan Howard, one of those 2 guys. Yeah. You're taking a flyer on slate for a chance to be the starting running back. Kerryon Johnson, too, is somebody who I think would be solid because I think he's going to start the year as a starting running back at least.
Right.
I think if you want to take a quarterback here, there's 2 solid options, but I'd rather just wait on the quarterback. So I am going to take Marvin Jones. It is a little bit of a...
That's fine. When you're at the turn, you got to reach sometimes.
Yeah.
Jordan Howard.
The guy that you had in mind?
I wanted you to take Josh Allen in the 8th.
Yeah. I thought about it.
Yeah, that's literally in almost no matter where I draft, pick 1 through 12 in the 8th round. Literally nothing is available. Like Jordan, I think Matt Breida is a decent 8th round pick.
Sure.
A lot of people want to do Jordan Howard, but right now the reports out of Miami. Today was the first padded practices, by the way. Yep. We recorded this on Monday, so which is exciting. But anyway, the reports out training camp are that, and I guess you could say now the preseason, are that Jordan Howard, his role remains to be seen with Miami. So I don't really know what that means for Jordan Howard. I don't know why they signed him. They signed him, right? They didn't trade for him.
Yeah, I believe they signed him.
So the big thing with Jordan Howard at this point is that the style of offense that Miami is going for with Chan Gailey is like this slinging, high flying offense that they, with at some point Tua and the speedy players that they have, they want to kind of speed the offense up, I would think. And Jordan Howard doesn't really fit into that. He's more of like a grinding, running back that doesn't really have much pass catching ability. So I think Matt Breida fits into that very well. Almost every season, I don't know if you knew this, but almost every season he has one run where he just completely torches the field and he's like rated as the fastest run. He has the fastest run in almost like every season since he came into the NFL.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. He's extremely fast when he gets to top end speed. So he's not the fastest running back in the NFL, but he always has like a ridiculous run where he gets up to top speed extremely quickly. So I think he fits Miami's offense a little bit better. I don't know what the opportunity looks like there, but those are the only two guys I really look at as far as skill positions besides Deontay Johnson in this round that I'd be like, yeah, definitely want to take that guy. You know what I mean? Which is why I've been going Josh Allen or another quarterback consistently in the 8th round, just because there's no one else available. Some leagues in the 8th people fall. So I'm like, let's just, you're fine. But anyway. If you see Sony Michel in your draft, do not draft him. Stay far away from that man's.
I tried all year. You
pushed him.
Case for Sony.
It's not even like Sony is bad. It's just like his foot and Lamar Miller. There's two big ones. I think I'm gonna take Mecole Hardman here first. I like Hardman. I think, as far as the upside is concerned for him, I don't know if he has, unless Sammy Watkins kind of gets cut or traded, or, he doesn't really play for the team at all this year, or he gets hurt again. Like, Hardman's not really going to have a maximized role, but I think there's certain situations where Mecole Hardman can be a good play just because of the way that Kansas City plays the game of football. I've been struggling with the Alexander Madison situation a lot because I feel like this is just far too early for Alexander Madison. Like, it's kind of it's kind of like a extremely risky, like,
I mean, even if you have Dalvin Cook, I feel like
I was going to say ceiling play, but I'm like, it's an extremely risky handcuff. Like, it's not worth it
for this early in the draft. Yeah.
So I'm not pumped on him either. I think I'm going to have to reach for this pick. I'm going to have to reach for it. Let's see what we got here. Nothing. Friggin' Darius Slayton, maybe. I'm not excited on that.
No, I don't mind that, but
I think I'm going to take Christian Kirk.
I was hoping he'd fall to me.
I sniped you. What is it? 11 picks in between us, and I sniped you. Sony Michel, Alexander Madison, Latavius Murray, Darius Slayton, Carson Wentz, CeeDee Lamb, Jared Cook, Tyler Higbee, and Tom Brady, as well as San Francisco 49ers defense. I should have just turned them off. Freaking defenses. And now it's your pick 9, 12, and 10. I think we're going to go with 13 rounds here, even though this we'll just do 14 and 15 real fast. I forgot to take the last 2 rounds up, folks.
This one's interesting for me.
I'm telling you, these 8th, 9th, and 10th round is.
Although I wouldn't mind continuing to wait and just take Cam Newton in the next round, because I really like Cam Newton this year, and I think you can continue to get value in like the 9th, 10th round, but there's really not much here on the board.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind Daniel Jones here. Like, that's what I was thinking about doing, getting Daniel Jones and Cam Newton. But I think Matt Stafford is, we've talked about him before. I really like Matt Stafford for this year.
Yeah.
This next one's tough. This next one's really tough. I'm going to go Antonio Gibson. And I know it feels a little early.
Don't do it.
And I know there's a lot of people that are very down on him right now because there were so many people high on him with the initial Darius Geis news. But I agree with a lot of those people where don't expect Gibson to be the workhorse or anything like that. I think Adrian Peterson will probably get the majority of the carries. Even Love might get a lot of carries with Washington as well.
Yeah.
But they're going to use all three guys in the run game. They will. We've heard the Christian McCaffrey comparisons with Ron Rivera. So Ron Rivera likes him. He drafted him at the top of the third round as well. He's going to be used in the slot as well. That's the big thing with Gibson. He's going to get a lot of targets this year.
Yeah.
And if he can get like 80 to 100 carries with like 70 targets, like he's going to be a PPR and half PPR machine, even if it's going to be kind of ugly because he's not going to be crazy in either category.
Yeah.
But he's a chance to be like listed as a running back. And still gets a lot of targets. And if he can just he doesn't need to get 150 carries. Like he just needs like 80 to 100, 120 carries in that range to be fantasy relevant. So I'm willing to take the risk in the 10th round.
I mean, 10th round risks are not bad. What are your thoughts on Darrell Henderson?
Yeah, I mean, he was somebody who I probably would have also taken it there. I just am so like, and I don't want to be a part
the
of
Rams' backfield is gross, but it's not like you have to spend a risky pick on them. Like what is Cam Akers? Cam Akers is he still on the board? He went in the 6th round. Like I would 100 million times more take
me too
Darrell Henderson in the 10th round than Cam Akers in the 6th. And like Darrell Henderson's been taking first team reps. He's been talked about as the first player that they want to use, and so they might be talking about a 3 running back RBBC. But I think if one of these guys runs away with the freaking spot, they're gonna give Todd Gurley like work.
Do you think Henderson's gonna? I don't think the job though.
Darrell Henderson is innately extremely talented, but I don't think Todd Gurley is innately extremely talented either. So I think that.
Okay, I get your argument.
I
think Gurley is much better than Darrell Henderson. Though.
I think Gurley's much better than Darrell Henderson. I freaking agree with you there. I just mean like he's not. Yeah, he's not like a I don't. If you had to choose 10 talented running backs in the NFL, Gurley would be like 12. So I think he's good, but he just relies on that offensive line. Like Barkley didn't even need an offensive line. You could run out.
I get
Daniel Jones to block for him, and he'd be all right.
He's not like the prospect player that. Yeah.
But anyway,
like
I think
even a Jonathan Taylor.
You have Cam Akers, who's the rookie, on a COVID year, if we want to call it that.
Sure.
And I think that the big problem that you have with him is that he's going to have to, as a 6th round pick, A, it's way too much, but B, he's going to get he's going to have to get a lot of like work in training camp and stuff like that to kind of just become accustomed to the offense. I think Malcolm Brown is still there. He's going to get work, obviously. But I think this is going to be a timeshare between Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown, and Cam Akers is probably going to be the 3rd down back or come in certain moments. You know what I mean? So I don't know that he's going to be ridiculously used. But I think if you're talking about a guy who knows the offense, a younger running back who's better than Malcolm Brown, I would say Darrell Henderson's the guy. And on the off chance that they just say, oh, Darrell Henderson gets all the work, first 3 weeks of the season, then you have a decent play. I don't think he's going to be that great, but he's not a bad play. What are these 3rd round pick, right? They used on him.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's decent capital.
It was like top of the 3rd round.
But if you're in this round, like I personally am avoiding Gibson. That's just me.
Okay.
So
I mean, a lot of people are. I really like the upside of his receiving game.
Yeah, I just don't know that. I don't know how much they're going to use him this year. Like, there's even like they drafted a running back in like the 4th, 5th round last year, Bryce Love.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to get some work. I mean, there's some rumors floating around that Gibson might get the Darius Geis role. I just don't. He reminds me of Darwin Thompson a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Gibson for one,
he's a higher draft
much
pick,
much higher draft capital.
Yeah.
And 2, this is Ron Rivera's guy. They drafted Gibson ahead of a lot of talented running backs, which I believe he was drafted ahead of Zach Moss, who was just off the board in our draft.
Right.
Like he was their guy in Washington, so that's why I really like Gibson. But he's somebody who could backfire, and like I agree that he's not going to get like a lot of rushing work.
I'm not going to judge you. It's a 10th round pick with nobody in the round.
Yeah, Darrell Henderson was probably my second option, though.
I would say for me, it would be, if you were to rank the running backs in this particular round, or the running backs that I would take in this round, it would probably be Darrell Henderson, Zach Moss, and then Antonio Gibson, never.
Okay.
At my pick, I would probably will take at 10, 12, I'm going to take Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds was ridiculously good in the absence of both Kenyon Drake and David Johnson.
Yeah.
So I take him more, like I was just ragging on Alexander Madison as being too high of a play, but I actually think that there's a chance, in the off chance. See, I'm a Kenyon Drake guy. You know I am. I take him in the second round. Think he's going to be a breakout guy. A lot of people have an opposing opinion that Kenyon Drake is not going to be consistent. He's not going to be good, and that Chase Edmonds might not overtake him, but it might end up being both of them being used in the backfield, or if Kenyon Drake does end up getting hurt for some ridiculous situation, Chase Edmonds ends up being the feature back. So obviously he's a handcuff / upside play at this point. In the 10th round, there's no running backs anyway. So, it's a what the heck moment.
Sure.
And then for my other pick, I think I'm gonna go down the board a little bit and get myself some Cam Newton.
Dang,
love it. Love it. We didn't even say the players in between your pick. I think I keep skipping that. Hayden Hurst, Keyshawn Vaughn, Darrell Henderson, Daniel Jones, a Baltimore Ravens D, Henry Ruggs, Tony Pollard, Sammy Watkins, Zach Moss, and Jerry Jeudy came off before my Chase Edmonds picks, and then after my Cam Newton pick. Cohen, Steelers D, Pats D, Sterling Shepard, Bills D, Adrian Peterson, John Brown, Justin Jefferson, who I'm assuming you went for, and Noah Fant, Baker Mayfield came off the board.
I have not gotten Justin Jefferson in like a single mock draft we've done. I really want him.
Never.
Yeah, for me, I mean, we're at the point where there's still actually some really solid value, I think, at the wide receiver position, but at the running back position, it's completely dead. Which is why you want to get your running backs early.
This is not breaking news, but the Kansas City Chiefs announced that they're going to run their stadium at 22% capacity for fans.
That's higher than I thought. Okay, that's not bad.
I'm surprised they're even going to let fans be in the.
I know. That's
I like it.
I'm excited. Yeah, but it'll be interesting. Yeah, for me, easy pick for here. I'm taking Jameson Crowder. I mean, we've talked about Crowder all off season. My second pick is where it gets interesting. I wouldn't mind going off the board here and taking like a Brandon Ayuk, who if Deebo Samuel misses any
they've been saying about Brandon Ayuk, the team has come out and said that he's way ahead of where any of the rookie wide receivers
he could start the year off even as a rookie as the wide receiver one. I mean, who's Jalen Hurts, I think, the wide receiver in San Francisco.
Yeah. I think he got hurt today, broke his foot.
Yeah, there's talks that they think he tore his ACL.
Oh, was it torn ACL?
Yeah, so I mean, if Deebo misses any time whatsoever, I think Ayuk is going to get like a lot of work very early on. And N'Keal Harry is an interesting risk play here as well. Jalen Reagor, who I like, especially if Alshon Jeffrey starts here in the PUP.
Yeah, you took your guy.
But I am going to take Brandon Ayuk. It is a little off the board. Yeah. Just for that potential upside early on.
After you took Ayuk, Hooper, Bears D, Justin Jackson, Chargers D, Roethlisberger, Anthony Miller, Deshaun Jackson, Golden Tate, Justin Tucker, and then Jalen Reagor came off the board. And this is where I'm going to kill your soul with Mike Gesicki and TJ Hawkinson back to back. I will always do it.
I knew I should have just taken Hawkins. I was thinking
you were fighting it. You were fighting it.
He'll take one, and I'll just take the other.
I was in a draft, and I started kicking myself because somebody took Gesicki, and then somebody took Hawkinson, right? It was a long draft, and we were in the 10th round, and Gesicki and Hawkinson were off the board. So I get to the 12th round, I'm like, who am I going to take? And then I just impulse picked Jonnu Smith. And then I look back, and I'm like, oh, my God, Noah Fant's on the board. I'm like a freaking idiot. It was an 8-hour long draft, and I freaking screwed that up.
Yeah, you did screw that up.
I gotta take 5 minutes and think about it.
You gotta take your time.
For me, I'm like, at this point, a lot of people are like, I saw a tweet today. I actually liked it because I believe, like, he was basically saying, like, don't take darts. You know, don't throw 12 darts on tight ends at the end of the draft. Just take one guy that you fully believe in. And, I'm like, I totally believe in the fully believe in part, but I disagree with the dart throwing. Like, I will throw as many darts on tight ends as I humanly can in the late rounds. Because who are you going to get? I mean, honest to God. So I take Gesicki and Hawkinson here just on the pure fact that
taking all the tight ends.
I want to take as many of the breakout tight ends as I can, whether that's Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, TJ Hawkinson, Jonnu Smith. Like, I will take most likely take 2 tight ends in between rounds 11 to 15, just because I want to see if I can get as many. To be honest with you, one of the guys will probably be cut before the season if you're in a kicker and defense league where you need a kicker and a defense. I don't draft them, so it is what it is, but I will take both of them just as a shot in the dark. After my pick, Goff, Williams, Damian Harris, Duke Johnson, Boston Scott, N'Keal Harry, DeAndre Washington, Ryan Tannehill, Dallas Goedert, and LaShawn McCoy came off the board. Rick, what you got of your picks?
Honestly, if I was in this situation, I might not even draft a tight end.
Interesting.
Like if I was actually playing here, and I would just try to trade for one before the season started.
Interesting. Why don't you just take John?
Pick up somebody undrafted, but I'll just take Johnny Smith.
I will be open for trade negotiations post-draft.
Yeah. I'll let you know. And then since you added kicker and defense, I'm just going to play it like it is kicker and defense. And I'm taking Harrison Buckner, baby.
Oh, my God, dude.
My guy.
You're crazy.
I've had 3 straight years or 2 or 3 straight years.
I feel like you're just going to do that at our draft just to have Harrison Butker.
Take him in like the 2nd round.
Yeah. So for my, oh God, dude, you're a disaster. I'm going to take Preston Williams. Obviously, we talked earlier about Miami having no wide receivers. Now, here's my thing. If you're in a draft and you draft Devontae Parker, do not draft Preston Williams. If you are in a draft and you don't draft Devontae Parker, somebody else does, you can draft Preston Williams. But don't draft both of them onto your same team. You don't want to be stacking Miami wide receivers on your roster. Please, for the love of God.
What if Tua comes in and is pretty good?
No, stop stacking. He's going to be like Kyler Murray. Well, no, he's not going to be like him.
I'd take it.
Anyway, don't do both wide receivers. Just choose one. It's like drafting Anthony Miller and Allen Robinson. It doesn't make any sense. Don't stack wide receivers on bad teams. And then I'm going to go a deeper dive. I'm probably going to draft Preston Williams if I could find his friggin' name. I'm sorry. Paris Campbell. I meant to say Paris Campbell. Preston Williams and Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell shot in the dark late in the draft. He's going to be the slot receiver, and Phillip Rivers loves slot receivers. Talked about him a million times, but I like him. I'm not going to list off the players that got drafted because they're all kickers and defenses.
I was just going to take Alan Lazard, too. Dang.
Wait,
you know what?
They
guess
snipe you?
I just got to draft a defense.
I just want to note that Burrow went 14-10. Would you be willing to take him in the 14th, 15th round, Joe Burrow?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I'm surprised Kirk Cousins went in the 15th.
Yeah, I'd probably rather take, let's see who's still on the board. I'd rather take Jimmy Garoppolo over Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I'd rather take Gardner Minshew over Kirk. There's some guys I'd rather take over Kirk Cousins, to be honest. But
there's only one guy that you need to take here, and it's Bryce Love.
Right. That would be logical.
That would be logical.
But since you made it kickers and defense, I'm going to draft a defense.
Because there's no logical decisions here in fantasy.
I'm taking the Washington football team, baby. Chase Young.
Interesting. He's like Chase Young. He's not a rookie. He's a rookie. Yeah. So I had Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson, Mike Gesicki, and Robert Woods as my starters. Then I drafted Debo, J.K. Dobbins, Mecole Hardman, Christian Kirk, Chase Edmonds, T.J. Hawkinson, Preston Williams, and Paris Campbell as my bench. Dang, I like that. How did Allen Robinson? How did I get Allen Robinson and Kenny Golladay?
I don't know. That was Robinson falling.
How did I snake that out?
Yeah, I got Matthew Stafford, Miles Sanders, Nick Chubb, Juju Smith-Schuster, A.J. Green, Jonnu Smith, because you took 2 tight ends. Todd Gurley, who I'm very surprised almost fell in the 4th round. Harrison Buckner, Washington football team, baby. Mm-hmm. And then my bench, who I think is pretty solid, Kareem Hunt, Tyler Boyd, Marvin Jones, Antonio Gibson, Jamison Crowder, and Brandon Ayuk.
Sounds good. Let's go into our news for the show really quickly. Just blow through it. Sure. Before we get into the news, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many other platforms. You can also make money from your podcast with a no minimum listenership to start putting ads on your podcast. So be sure to do that. It's everything you need to make. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So be sure to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Let's jump into the news and then we'll conclude the show. Speaking on Wednesday, Frank Reich reiterated Marlon Mack is the starting running back, but the Colts they're going to ride the hot hand in the backfield. So this is like a backhanded Marlon Mack compliment.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be the starter, but I'll tell you, if Jonathan Taylor starts running people over,
we're going to ride Jonathan Taylor.
So it was funny because I was reading that somebody was doing analysis on that, and they're like, I really believe in Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to be really great. If he has a couple breakout games, he's going to be the starter. And I'm like, so wait a minute, hold on a second. He's got to have like 2 or 3 breakout games before you name him the starter? Like, how impossible is that going to be without Marlon Mack getting hurt?
I mean, it won't be impossible, but it'll just take a while.
Yeah. This guy screams... I originally thought this was J.K. Dobbins, but this guy screams Miles Sanders this year.
He is.
From last year. He's a good pass catching back, better than Marlon Mack. He's probably a way better, more talented running back than Marlon Mack.
He's super
and so like he's gonna get the work eventually. It's a matter of when.
I just think people are undervaluing a guy who rushed for 1,000 yards last year. Like
it's
Marlon
true.
Mack is going. Like people act like he's not even there. Like,
if you wanted to say DeAndre Swift was just going to outright take the job from week 2,
I believe that more than Jonathan.
Exactly, and I think Swift is going to be a bust. I think we got Swift in the news here, but like this year, I think he's going to be a bust. I don't think he's going to be a bust long term. But I really don't. Like for Jonathan Taylor, it's going to take him all season, and it's like at the 3rd round, 4th round, it's totally not worth it to me. I've talked about this before. 5th, 6th round for Jonathan Taylor. If you want to do that, do that. I would much rather him be a bench selection than have him in my having in my starting lineup.
And then if you want to do like you want to draft Chris Carson, I think would be a good fit with Taylor because once Rashard Penny comes back, there's going to be question marks. But for the first half of the season, even maybe not half, the first 4 or 5 weeks, he's going to be really good.
Right.
And if you have Jonathan Taylor on your bench, and then once Penny comes back, you could switch it up, and Jonathan Taylor hopefully by then will be getting more carries.
Yeah.
I like Jonathan Taylor. I really do. I think he's a super talented back. I think he's better than Marlon Mack. But people think he's just going to walk in week 1 and get 25 carries. He's not.
No.
Marlon Mack is going to be the starting running back until Jonathan Taylor proves he is better, which we all know he is, but it's just a matter of when that happens. That could take 3 weeks. That could take 6 weeks. That could take 8 weeks.
I think people underestimate the value of a veteran running back to NFL coaches. The NFL coaches are not thinking in the box of fantasy football. They're not thinking in the box of this guy's extremely talented because we drafted him in the 2nd round.
They like both guys.
They like both guys. They want to use Marlon Mack in that offense. He's going to be the starter because he's a veteran, and they're not just going to hand it to the rookie. So it's going to take him a little while to develop. I don't even know if this year is going to be a good year for him in terms of getting production. Like I totally understand the argument of Jonathan Taylor. His sheer talent will just overtake Marlon Mack to start the season. Yeah. That's within the realm of outcome.
If there was a preseason too.
Oh yeah, if we saw some of that stuff, I would. But this is like last year when David Montgomery was getting drafted in the 3rd, 4th round, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, David Montgomery!" But he actually had opportunity. We knew he was going to get the opportunity. Here we don't know. I understand Jonathan Taylor got drafted on a good offense, and he's a talented running back and all of that jazz.
Probably
but
he's better situation than David Montgomery when it comes to the team around him, but not in terms of opportunity.
Josh Jacobs said that his goal is to catch at least 60 passes this season. Good luck with that, Josh Jacobs. I do think he probably will catch 40 to 50 if there's any consolation. If he does that, I mean, for the love of God, this is the only guy that I'm drafting in front of Miles Sanders outside of the top 5.
Really?
I love Josh Jacobs.
I do really like Josh Jacobs. If he can catch 60 passes this year, he should be in the same conversation as Kamara and Dalvin Cook and that range.
In great news for the NFL, this is such a slap in the face to the bubble. No, they aren't traveling yet, but this is a slap in the face to the NHL and the NBA bubble teams. I mean, they still are beating out the NFL on positive COVID tests with 0. Yes. But the NFL announced that COVID-19 positive test rate in the first 2 weeks of training camp is below 1%, which is fantastic news. And no high-profile names, I think, have gotten COVID, so that's great news. I don't know what they're doing inside locker rooms or anything, but whatever they're doing, continue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a slap to the face to the bubble necessarily because the bubble works perfectly as well. But it's more of a slap to the face to Major League Baseball where they just they didn't. You have to have rules for the players. You can't just go out to the club.
Yeah.
And just do whatever you want. You have to be very I'm
gonna be honest.
If you decide to not opt out, you have to be conservative with yourself outside.
You were a baseball player.
Uh-huh.
I played baseball for 15 years.
Yeah.
And
me too.
We both played for a very long time, and we know how much of tool bags baseball players can be. Baseball players are idiots. I'll just say that. And I think, believe it or not, players that get their heads smashed in every single week in the NFL have more common sense than baseball players do.
It feels like they do. Yeah.
So I've also talked about many times how the MLB is just complete. When people compare the MLB to the NFL, I think the MLB is just completely incompetent when it comes to anything. So just management wise, like I feel like even though people hate Roger Goodell, he's dang good at what he does. And I think that the NFL will figure it out. It just comes down to when they start traveling to different locations and they're in separate locker rooms. I think the other thing is that Major League Baseball players are playing every single day, as opposed to NFL teams where if you go and play a game 1 week, like, Chiefs and Texans are playing 1 week, right? The first game of the season, they play, and then you just cleanse the opposing team's locker room for an entire week. And then next team comes in and you can just keep it safer, as opposed to like MLB where every single day players are coming in and out. You know what I mean? It's like a firm rotation. So it's like,
right.
I feel like if people are positive for COVID-19, it's easier to track than it is in basketball, hockey, or baseball because there's not as many games happening all at once. So I don't think people have really thought about that for the NFL either. But the below 1% thing's great news.
It is great news.
So they're saying at camp right now for the Chiefs, right now Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the featured back in practice. He's getting all the reps, which is not unsurprising.
Yeah,
that's good news. J.K. Dobbins plans to push for the starting role. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
I sure hope he is.
Yes, but I think it's more or less the reality that he wants it. He wants the job. And it's like, I feel like some guys would come into that situation and go, Mark Ingram is the starter and I'm complacent. You know what I mean? Whereas J.K. Dobbins is like, frick Mark Ingram, I'm coming for your job.
Right.
Which is great news. I think at some point, like, I don't think he's going to pass Mark Ingram, but I think he's a very talented running back and he's significantly younger. And I think at some point the Ravens are going to get him involved. That's why I take him in the 7th, 8th round as like a, flyer pick. Debo has a chance of playing. We referenced that earlier in week 1, but the head coach, Kyle Shanahan's not counting on it. So he's not expecting it to happen, but he is okay right now with that happening.
Yeah. With the possibility.
Oh, this is probably the best news of the week. After freaking destroying his leg and literally almost dying, Alex Smith has recovered and he's been activated by the Washington football team for football activities from the PUP list. So he could, if week 1, he can start. He can play. I don't know that they're going to have him play.
No, probably not. But
that is great news. That is a great guy. I hope he plays week 1 because that would be, sorry, Dwayne Haskins. I think
Dwayne Haskins is the starting quarterback.
I think he's the starting quarterback too. But do you think, so if Alex Smith comes back, right, and he is, if let's just say 80% of what original Alex Smith was, that's better than Haskins to me. Does that improve Washington's team at all?
I think it's a little bit better than Haskins. I mean, we'll see if it's Haskins, like if Haskins, what we saw his rookie season, is what he is his whole career, then that is better than Dwayne Haskins. But Haskins is a very young quarterback. If he improves at all, I think he can probably be better than Alex Smith. But I think it is a slight upgrade. Like they could with that defense. I mean, there's a chance that they could be like compete for like a wild card spot.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Skins. I do think they're definitely going with Haskins. I don't think they expected Alex Smith to be back this fast.
What team was that?
Did I say the Reds? Yeah. It's going to be all season.
It is going to be hard. Yeah.
You should have just picked a name so I could sit there in my room saying it over and over and over again.
Just say Washington
football team, Washington football team, Washington football team. It's so stupid. Like, this is such a cop-out. Did you see that they hired the NFL's first African-American team president?
I did not.
So they went from being one of the most racist organizations in the history of the NFL in 5 minutes to like one of the most proactive, progressive teams. It's so funny. I'm like, people online were like, this is such a, I feel so bad for the guy because I'm like, he legitimately probably earned the job. And everyone's like, oh, this is just a coin move. to make them look good. And I'm like, that's so not fair to the guy who's getting the job.
Not fair, yeah.
So it remains. So Darrell Bevell, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, he said it remains to be seen how the DeAndre Swift fits in the offense. I would say, friends, don't draft DeAndre Swift in the 6th round.
Do you think that could also be they don't? That seems like he just doesn't want to talk about it. Meaning, like, that could be a good thing too.
It could be a good thing. Yeah, I guess.
Depends how you take.
It sounds to me like he's saying, Matt Patricia picked DeAndre Swift without my approval, and I don't know what to do with him now. It's kind of what it sounds like
I don't
to
know.
me.
I really love DeAndre Swift. I love him as a player too. But I agree with you that I think he's going to be kind of a bust this year just because carry on. People forget about carry on. But if carry on gets hurt at all, DeAndre Swift, I'm on the train.
And my favorite, I would say my favorite news of the week was Alex Smith, but my second favorite news of the week is the Eagles head coach said Miles Sanders, Doug Peterson himself, the RBBC god, said Miles Sanders would be the guy in the backfield this season. That they told him, you're going to be the guy, dude. We're going to give you all the work. So to Miles Sanders, congratulations. You will be a top 5 running back in the 2020 fantasy football season.
Oh, I don't know about that. I hope so.
That is one of the most exciting pieces of news I got this week. That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it for I can't ever find the button on the iPad to cue the show out. So that's just that. Don't forget to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Like on the YouTube if you like the video itself. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and we will talk to you tomorrow, Fantasy Champs.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.